Hello, viewer, and welcome to Spotlight here on Hope TV, where you look and live. And on Spotlight, we always do our very best to bring to you persons who are transforming our community in the direction of light and by the power of God. And so as we go on with this program, just know that it is for your good, it's for your improvement. And talking about improvement, I mean, we have people who spend a lot of time just improving themselves. But what about a person who spends their life improving others? They wake up in the morning all the way to the evening, Monday throughout the week, and their business and their passion is to improve other people. And that's exactly what we are engaging on this edition of Spotlight, because we are happy to have with us Dr. Ruben West. Now, Dr. Ruben West is the president of Financially Fit Africa, all about improving and empowering the people, especially in their economic life. Dr. West?
Yes, sir.
Welcome to Spotlight.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the opportunity to be on the show.
Yeah, we are looking forward to this conversation, and it's just amazing how you spend your life, just improving others. People are busy improving themselves.
Yes.
People are busy using others, to meet their own ends.
Yes.
And we have many people doing that.
Yes.
Now, maybe you can tell us, just before you tell us a little bit about Financially Fit Africa, because it's good for us to know about that. But how come that what's your inspiration behind just pouring your knowledge, your understanding, your wisdom in the lives of others?
What I've come to realize is that there's things that give us joy. There's things that bring us joy. And as I spend my time helping to impact other people, it really fills my life with joy. I have a statement that I say every day. I'm a balanced, empathetic, sensitive leader, connecting on a divine level, creating new opportunities, and guiding millions toward their God-given dreams. That took me a while.
Sounds like a creed.
Yeah, it is. But that took me a while to come up with. And let me tell you why. When we're growing up, when we're developing, we're pretty much under the microscope of the people that are over us. And when we're younger, we have all these dreams and aspirations, but people force us to conform. I want you to do this. I want you to do that. I want you to go to med school, go to law school. They have all of these dreams and aspirations for us. And so it took me some time to undo, uncover, and rediscover who I actually was. And so I've had a number of careers, but I had to bring it back to who am I and what was I created to do? Now, when you understand that and you operate in that realm, it gives you a whole new sense of joy.
Dr. West, you mentioned something that on a day-to-day basis, everyone is struggling with.
Yes.
The area of knowing yourself.
Yes.
Know thyself.
Yes.
And that's a journey. People travel through life only to discover who they are pretty late after having gone through lots of places maybe they shouldn't have been. Now, let me just, for the sake of all of us, in the most brief way you can do that.
Yes.
How was the journey of knowing yourself?
My journey was tricky because most of the time we know other people, we learn other people, and most of the time people say, I want to go find myself. I got to find myself. You're not lost. You're right there. It's not about finding yourself. It's discovering yourself. There's something that you were created to do, something that you were created to be. And most of the time, we never take the time to figure out what that is. So I want to give everybody who says, Dr. West, I feel like I was created for something, but I don't know what it is and I don't know how to discover it. Let me give you a brief statement on what you could do. There's things that other people notice in you that you think nothing about. They say, man, the way you work with kids, they just light up when you're around, or the way you work with the elderly, or the way you do hair, or the way you cook, or the way you host events. There's something that you do that stands out to other people. It's just normal to you. So this lady, Edwina Blackman, said, Ruben, do you notice the way people gather around when you talk? No. Like I never saw it. I never noticed. He said, you can speak to people. You can inspire people. You can encourage people. At the time, I worked in surgery. right? I worked in surgery every day. But when she said it, I started to notice it. And it took her noticing it from the outside in. And then I said, oh, wait a minute. I can talk to people. I can inspire people. And so that led me on a new level of self-discovery. Not find myself, discover myself.
Well, that's just been quite a journey, you know, when you think about it. And the challenge usually is that the society already defines for us what is successful and what is unsuccessful.
True.
Defines already for us who it is who is at the top and who is at the bottom. And so the temptation to conform and fit in that mold is real. It's real. Now, how do you break away from that pressure? Of what is outside and begin to be loyal to what you discover in your inside?
You know, you have to move forward. And let me say, moving forward is simple. It's what you're leaving behind that's difficult. See, because in who you are right now, you've established a number of relationships, a number of contacts. You have maybe even developed some situations where you're recognized for something, you're known for something. And now you're facing, do I leave all of that behind to move forward into who I was called to be? Because I've even had some levels of success in this area of my life. So do I feel comfortable with leaving all that behind and moving to who I was created to be? And it's difficult. It's difficult because there's financial ties to what you used to do or what you're doing. There's emotional ties, there's relationship ties. And when you move into this new area, some of those ties you have to break. And so that's what makes it difficult for people. Moving on is simple. What you're leaving behind is difficult. And so what you have to do is you have to make up in your mind that I believe that there's more value in who I can become than who I used to be. And it's not until you accept that, and value takes the form of many different things. And most people are, well, let me tell you, they talk about value only in the terms of money. Right? Let me tell you this, sir. Some people are so poor, all they have is money. Catch that? They're so poor, all they have is money. They don't have relationships. They don't have true friends. They don't have true contacts. And because they have money, it's hard for them to develop true friendships and true relationships because they never know, does this person like me or do they just want my what? Money. And so it gets challenging.
All right. We'll talk about money quite a bit as we go on with this conversation.
Sure.
And especially that that aspect of money and our identity.
Yes.
We're talking about the boldness of moving away from what is standard as far as the external community is concerned and what is being faithful to whom you discover that you are. And I remember one of my friends at one time made a big leap, from being a lawyer to being a pastor. And what he said was that, the decision was easy, but the consequences were hard.
Yes, leaving what you leave behind is difficult.
Yeah, and let's just stay a little bit with that because we're talking about the church and the Christian. And one of the things that a Christian hopes to find in Christ is identity, that makes them maybe turn around their lives in different ways. But Dr. West, we have Christians who are in Christ, but they are still lost as far as the identity is concerned. Can you just unpack that for us?
Sure. What I know is that most of us have been affected by our upbringing. So even though we're in Christ, we have a natural upbringing too. There's a book by Dr. Maxwell Maltz called Psycho-Cybernetics. And he said that there's 3 factors, and when these 3 factors are present, things get imprinted on our subconscious mind. Number 1, something that's said to us by an authority figure. Number 2, something that's said with emotion or force. Or number 3, something that's repeated often. When those 3 factors are there, it can get imprinted on your subconscious mind, which means that when you go to change who you are, those words come back to you. So now let's look at that. An authority figure, emotion and force, repeated often. If you had a parent, a teacher, someone that you saw as an authority figure, say, you'll never amount to anything. You'll never be anything. You're just like your father. You're just like your mother. You'll never have wealth. You'll never be in a relationship. No one's ever going to love you. Authority figure, emotional force, repeated often, it gets printed in your subconscious. Now, you can meet the right person, but those words will come up in your head. You know no one's going to love you. You know you're going to always be single. You'll get the right opportunity to change your life. You know you don't deserve that. You know you're never going to have anything. And so the problem is we don't know how to unpack that subconscious programming to move forward in our lives. And so on one hand, we have the Christian experience, but on the other hand, we have our biology and our physiology, and that creates the competition. If it was as easy as just believing in Christ and everything would work out perfect, well, we'd all be great, right? If information could change people, we'd all be skinny, happy, healthy, and rich, because you can Google anything and in 1/10 of a second get 60 million hits. And all you had to do was read the information. People's lives aren't changed through information, it's changed through an experience. So when you come into a religious experience, it changes your life. But sometimes we have to have a personal experience, a shedding of all those things that we were told so that we can move in a new direction.
You know, it's always a paradox. When you think about people who are lost in the promised land.
Yes.
You're in Christ, but you're still stranded.
Yes.
Which brings a very important question to the fore. And I'm sure that as a person who has been a leader, even on a church front and you know, in the Christian society, it's something you have engaged, because the church does offer space for, as you say, that religious experience, encounters with Christ. But there seems to be a certain gap in the church addressing the whole man or the whole person, such that there's a narrow, sharp investment, but doesn't open up to the entire life of the person. Can you speak to that?
Attitude reflects leadership. Right? And so, are you a father?
I'm a father.
I'm a father. So a part of our responsibility is to nurture our children, nurture our household, and to bring in all of the necessary information that our children need. So we send our children to school to learn math and reading and writing and language and all those different things, science, music. We make sure those things are there. That's our job. But then they have to learn morals, responsibility, all these different things. That's our job as fathers. We're leaders. Attitude reflects leadership. So when the church leader positions himself or herself to look after the whole man. In other words, they're saying, I'm going to bring these people into the church, and I'm going to want them to be here. I'm going to want them to have this experience. Then they're responsible for providing for the whole man. Let me tell you, my mother is an associate pastor. I have 4 uncles that are bishops. My grandfather was the pastor. And so I always tell people we were drug addicts when I was younger. I was raised by drug addicts. I was drugged to church on Sunday, Monday, drugged to church on Tuesday, Wednesday. We lived at church. Well, the church is where you go to get refueled to take your new knowledge out into the world. It's not where you live. It's where you get refueled to go live and to bring other people in. If you're going to be at church all that time, then the church now has to provide. How do you learn about wealth and money and budgeting and income? How do you learn about relationships? There's a lot of single people in the church that go get married, but watch this. You've probably married a couple or before, like you've performed the ceremony, and so couples go to premarital counseling. Do they do that here? Yeah, but let me tell you something. They usually go to premarital counseling after they've made the decision of who they're going to marry. That's the wrong time to go to the premarital counseling, because it's hard to counsel a bad decision. You married the wrong person, and there's no amount of counseling that's going to change the fact that you teamed up with the wrong person. Now, if they had premarital counseling for men and women way before they ever thought about who it was I'm going to marry, now they know what to look for. Where the way it works, they go find who I'm going to marry, and then they say, okay, you counsel us how to make this work. Well, how do you do that when you're sitting with the wrong person? And so there's a lot of things that the church can do differently that would prepare the people to move forward in a new way, but so many times we are caught up in tradition. Yeah.
All right. I feel that we would have another discussion on the church and the whole person.
Yeah.
I also felt some passion rising as you talked about marriage. So I felt like drifting into those relationships. There. But let's stay with Financially Fit Africa.
Yes, sir.
And tell us a little bit about Financially Fit Africa.
Sure. So Financially Fit Africa, our goal is to change the way people feel, think, and act about money. Most people are never trained in money. When I was younger, if I asked my parents about certain things, they would say, mind your own business, right? They would say, mind your own business. The problem is, when I got business, I didn't know how to mind mine, because every time I asked them about theirs, they told me to mind my own. And so there were some lessons that weren't taught. So what we want to do is uncover or unveil those lessons. It's interesting that we find families in Africa that are wealthy, and they have transportation companies or livestock, or maybe they have property. But then when the patriarch dies, the father dies, the wealth is lost. It wasn't the business that wasn't passed on, it was the knowledge that wasn't passed on. And so we come to bridge the gap in that knowledge so that they can maintain their wealth and at the same time generate wealth.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's money is a big part of everybody's life.
Everybody's
and
life.
So sometimes it feels very strange to some people to know that they should go to some training concerning knowledge about money management and all that. And I just want you to tell our viewer the importance of having training in money management, because oftentimes we think that, oh, that's for the accountants, oh, that's for other people. I have the knowledge, I don't need anyone to teach me about money, you know? Why is it important for everyone to have a training on money management?
Because you're the first person that handles the money. See, an accountant does accounting. They account for where the money went, where it came in, where it went out. But they don't control whether you spend it or not. They just account what happens to it. And so one of the principles that we teach is the wealth compass. We say money can only go one of four ways. And we say that the goal is to try to get money to go true east towards appreciating assets. But on our wealth compass, which you see as my logo, there's two hands. There's the emotional spindle and there's the logical spindle. And we know money and spending, like eating, most of it is emotional. And so someone could have $20 or $30, 2,000 shillings or 3,000 shillings, and logic says, I should probably put this aside in case I have some kind of emergency. But emotion says, there's a new handbag I want. There's a new tie I want. There's a new pair of shoes I want. There's a new restaurant I want to go to. 9 times out of 10, emotion wins over logic. So what we teach is how do you align the logical spindle and the emotional spindle so that they're going in the same direction? Because when you do that, then accumulating wealth becomes easy, because it's not the constant duality to I want that, or should I save? Or should I put it towards something that's going to grow? And so that knowledge and going through that process is critical, because we will be challenged, you know, and it's easy to give in to emotion. Yeah.
You know, you say that there's one thing you can do, and then creating wealth becomes easy, right? And let's stay with the church and the Christian.
Sure.
Because sometimes, I mean, a lot of times, the understanding of the Christian and wealth leans towards like money is not a really good thing, such that the wealthy Christian looks exceptional. And the more average you are as far as, you know, money is concerned, the more Christian you look. You know, the more wealthy you are when it comes to you being a Christian, the more people ask what's going on with them, you know?
Exactly.
So what should be the right attitude as far as the Christian and money is concerned?
Well, one of the things we're instructed to do is to look after the orphan and the widow, and I think it takes money to do that. All right. Money is a magnifier. So if you're a kind, giving, sharing, caring person and you get more money, you're going to be more kind, giving, caring, and sharing. If you're a dishonest, spiteful person and you get more money, you're probably going to be more dishonest and spiteful. Why? Because money is a magnifier. It brings out more of who you are. Now, if you want to go help in the Kibera slums and you have a feeding program or a give back program, and you got a lot of money, you do more of that. So it can't be bad. People mistake and misquote. They say money is the root of all evil. No, it's the love of money. If you love money and use people, you have it wrong. If you use people, love people and use money, you have it right. So money is just a tool to use to accomplish the things that you want to accomplish. It's not good or bad. It depends on whose hands you put it in. So I don't worry about money coming into my hands because I'm not a negative person. I'm a loving, caring, giving person. And do I want more money? Yes, of course I do. I want as much as I can possibly get. Why? Because it allows me to do more good.
Okay.
So, you know, but we think if we have some measure of wealth, we're doing something wrong. What I believe is when you look at the wealthy person, what you're not looking at is just their wealth. You have to look at their level of service. So when you go through a neighborhood with big homes and nice cars, don't look at the homes and cars. Look at the service. What service does that family provide to the community? What service does that family provide to the community? And what you'll usually find is they provide a higher level of service, and that's how they got the wealth. So most of the people, even Christians that have a higher level of wealth, they probably are providing a higher level of service. They're writing books, they're sharing messages. They're doing these things that are generating revenue through the service that they provide.
All right. Well, just like what you've said, that you want as much money as possible.
Yeah,
you know?
and if anybody doesn't want theirs, send it to me. I'll use it.
You know, to do good.
To do good.
Maybe you can help us with understanding what are the steps or what can one do to create a successful wealth vision?
That's exactly what we teach in the Financially Fit program. The first thing is creating a wealth vision. Where there is no vision,
you perish.
The people perish. And most people never apply that to their wealth vision. The reason that is, and look, we're fathers, so I like talking about this because we're fathers. We have a vision for our children. And we base the things we do on a daily basis based on that vision. If we didn't have a vision for them, what difference would it make what we did on a daily basis? We wouldn't make sure they went to school. We wouldn't make sure they studied, they read, they did their homework. We wouldn't. The only reason we do it is because we already have the vision and we're guiding them towards that vision. Well, it works the same way when you get a wealth vision. Once you write out your wealth vision, then you can guide yourself in that direction. Some things no longer make sense because of the vision you have for your life. So it doesn't make sense for me to let my children watch anything on TV that's not appropriate for their growth. Why? Because it doesn't fit into the vision I have for them. Without a vision, it's hard to guide yourself to where you want to go.
Okay, I know that you mentioned that that's one of the big things that you teach. And for a person who is listening, watching us right now, and they have understood, yes, I need to, do a wealth vision.
Yes.
What would you say are the big highlights that need to be in that vision?
First of all, they have to choose to be wealthy. Like most people they don't ever say, I choose to be wealthy. Watch this. In order to become a Christian, didn't you have to make a choice to choose that? I mean, that's something you chose. You consciously chose. And then once you chose it, then you understood that there's some principles that govern it. So we teach principle-centered wealth. Why? Because principles work for everyone. If you go to a financial advisor, they give you strategies. And the strategies they would give you would be different from me because we earn different money, our children are a different age, we want to retire at a different age. But the principles don't change. That's why ministers teach on the Bible in the U.S., in Africa, in Asia. Why? Because it's principle-centered. They don't change. Once they made the choice, then they chose to follow the principles. When you have a wealth vision and you choose to be wealthy, now you know there's going to be some principles that you have to follow. But if you don't ever make the choice, you don't have to discipline yourself to follow the principles. And so that works whether it's Christianity or being wealthy. So most people have never just made the choice, and the reason they don't want to make the choice is because it comes with discipline. See, it takes discipline to be a Christian. It takes discipline to be wealthy.
Okay. And you know, it's interesting now that you are using the marriage field quite a bit. I'm just to imagine waking up one morning beside my wife and saying, you know what, I've decided I want to be wealthy. You know, it sounds almost fearful. You know, it sounds like whoa. And your wife will be looking, what did you just say? Yeah, I've just decided I want to be wealthy. You know, but it's a very powerful vision, as powerful statement, a powerful ambition, especially when it's motivated in the right way.
Yeah.
Now, I would hope, Dr. West, that you can share with us some of the principles that help in this wealth creation. We'll take a short break, and we'll look forward to hearing those practical principles that a Christian can engage, so they can be able to actually not just say and choose to be wealthy, but actually be on that journey.
Yes.
Viewer, we are talking about our personal growth and specifically the financial component of our lives. And we are with Dr. West, who is the president of Financially Fit Africa. You definitely want to stay here to hear some of the principles that will begin to turn your life around, pushing you forward. This is Spotlight. Stay with us. Welcome back, viewer. We are talking to Dr. Ruben West, who is president of Financially Fit Africa. And all the thing that we're hearing here is that we need to move forward. We are meant to move forward, and there are practical things that we can do to move in terms of our mind, our understanding, and even in terms of our wealth. There are things that we can do that will take us forward because we belong to forward, right? Now, principles.
Yes.
Because when we talk about wealth, everyone ends up asking, so how do I do it?
Exactly.
You know, I have woken up and said, hey, I want to be wealthy, you know, and I feel it flowing in my...
That's right.
I feel it flowing in my blood, and I want to be wealthy, you know. But when I look around where I am sleeping or where I'm staying, it doesn't speak back to me.
It doesn't match what you're thinking.
It tends to tell me, hey, what did you just say? That's to mock me back, you know.
That's
but
right.
Maybe you can help us, help the viewer with some specific principles that will begin to change their lives right away.
Yeah, so the first one I told you is that you have to choose to be wealthy. This is our book, Financially Fit for Life. It's not a reading book, it's an exercise book. It's 33 financial exercises that will change your life.
Financially Fit for Life.
For life. Think about this, if you wanted to play football, soccer, we call it soccer, you call it football, and you went to the coach, they would have you do drills and exercises that make you better for soccer. We take you through drills and exercises that make you better at understanding wealth, using money as a tool, and to create the psychology of wealth. So one principle is what we call a cash flow checkup. It looks at what your cash flow is, where it goes, where it should go, where you're spending. We also talk about the psychology of wealth. If you don't understand that there's a psychological component for wealth, then you'll always miss the mark. It's like any sports competition. If you take a real high level athlete, it's hard to get them off the court or it's hard to get them off the field. They can even get hurt. No, put me in. Because they've done so much training and so much work, they just feel like they're better to help the team on the field. When you go through these principles, it makes you want to help other people with these principles because you know the knowledge and now you can clearly see where they're going wrong. So the first step is understanding where you are. That's the cash flow checkup. And then also understanding that there's a psychology to wealth that you have to understand. Most people never even know that there is one, let alone how to create it or what to do about it.
Okay, sounds like it's a whole school by itself.
It is. It's a training program.
And do you have specific places where one can get these sessions or even live sessions?
Yeah, absolutely we do. You know, I'd like to mention that at the end. If you hear what we're saying and you like what we're saying, I want them to hold on to the end of our conversation to get that information.
Good. That's good. It's good to know that there's a place that one can actually engage.
Yeah, they can come meet us live, and I'll tell them exactly where to do that.
Great.
Yeah.
And we're still with that because we have lots of young parents here in Kenya, and of course, we learn about how to teach them about morality, you know, what to avoid and what to embrace. But one of the other areas that parents often struggle with is beginning to teach their children about money and wealth at a tender age. How can you speak to that parent who is watching us right now?
Yes. Oh, you know what? I would love to teach you how to fly a plane. I just don't know how. Right? And so we can't teach what we don't know. So a lot of people want to teach their children about wealth and finances, but they've never been taught. So the first step is to get the information for yourself and then apply the information. What I know about children is they don't necessarily listen to what we say, they watch what we do. And so most of their learning is through watching their parents' actions, reactions, and interactions. And so what parents try to do is teach children one thing while they live another, and it doesn't work because they pick up what we do. So the real goal is to get the knowledge that you've been missing. When you get the knowledge that you've been missing, now you apply the knowledge that you've recently found. When you apply the knowledge, they're watching that. You can't teach what you don't know. And most people like teaching it from a theoretical standpoint. Let me ask you a question. If somebody was going to mentor you for a 2-year mentorship program in business, and you could have a college professor with a PhD in business, or you could be mentored by Steve Jobs for 2 years, or Bill Gates for 2 years, or Warren Buffett for 2 years, who would you choose? You choose one of the people who have done it. That's why I like this program, because this program was written by Steve Down. He did the work. He created $100 million net worth. He did those things after finding himself in debt. So we would much rather learn from people who have done it, not just read about it or studied it. That's why it's important for parents to learn it and then apply the knowledge, because now our children can learn from what we're doing, not just what we're saying. So the first step is you got to have somewhere to learn the knowledge and then apply the knowledge that you've learned.
Okay, and a very important writer there, that as we are spending money, as we are engaging the matter of wealth as parents, the children are watching us.
Yeah, you're not just spending money, you're training them on what to do with money. So if you're frivolous, you're training them on how to be frivolous. And they think it's the right thing to do because you're their parent. So they don't know that it's wrong. And a lot of times we don't either, because we haven't had anybody to tell us. So I'm not criticizing anyone. There's things I didn't know. And until I finally learned it, I thought I was doing the right thing. Yeah.
All right. Let's move on to the youth.
Yes.
A huge youth population.
Yes.
And with the youth population, lots of competition. And with a lot of competition, so you hear people priding in, millionaire under 30 or billionaire under 40. So a big milestone, and
it's tremendous.
And that comes with the pressure of wanting to make money quickly, to just get rich so quick. And that has been a challenge because young people, wealth, the quick connection. From your experience, what would you tell young people as far as wealth creation is concerned?
So when you say millionaire under 30, billionaire under 40, what you didn't say is what they did to become a millionaire under 30 or a billionaire under 40. That may be their gift. It doesn't mean it applies to you. I'm never going to take you up in a plane and fly the plane. I took pilot lessons for a while. It was too expensive. I stopped, right? And I didn't feel like I had a calling for it. There's some people who say, I feel like this is my calling, this is my passion. It wasn't my calling, it wasn't my passion. What I've been able to do is take things I was passionate about or things that I felt were my calling and apply that. And when I did those things, it worked for me. Now, for the youth, they have to find out what they're passionate about and then apply the principles of service, right? Because you don't get money, you get rewarded for service. Money follows service, not the other way around. So most people feel like they'll serve when they get a lot of money. But life says, I'll give you the money based on the level of service you provide. So the people who they're talking about that generated the money, they're providing some kind of service, whether it's music, whether it's entertainment, whether it's assistance, they're providing some kind of service. You have to find what kind of service that you're passionate about providing, and then be excellent in that level of service. So what they miss most of the time is they want the money now, they don't want to be excellent now. Money follows excellence, not the other way around. So what you have to do is you have to find out what it is that you want to do and be so good at it, so excellent at it, that you can't be ignored, that you attract people to you, that you attract people by the way you serve in whatever capacity that you've been called to serve in. And that's, to me, the missing link, because they don't understand that it takes a while to get to that level of service. I heard someone talking about LeBron James or Steph Curry or Michael Jordan, these famous basketball players, and how much money they make in the American National Basketball League, NBA. They've never talked about how many hours they spent as a young kid, as a teenager, as an early adult, practicing, training, hours and hours and hours and hours and hours on end before they ever made money. In the US, you can't even make money in college. So they played for colleges and universities. They still weren't paid. So they had years of training before they ever started making the money. Most people don't want to dedicate themselves to that level of excellence. They want the money now, and it's probably not going to happen.
Okay. So there's work.
It's absolute work.
It's a lot of work. And
let me say, the work is reasonable, because most of the time, if we get the money at too young of an age, we'll blow it because we don't know how to handle it. We don't know the capacity with it. So not only are we building our level of knowledge in the area that we're going to serve, but we're also building our level of knowledge of hopefully how to handle the wealth when we receive it.
And in that same space of young people, there is a common trend that has really picked up now in Kenya, and I'm sure in many parts of Africa, where young people are starting out early, such that they are going to college, but they are also working. Some even as low as high school. They are in high school, they are going to school, but at the same time they have what is called in Kenya a side hustle. Now, this side hustle has become such a big thing that it's now building to be a political ideology. It's interesting when you think about it. But when you think about excellence, because you talked about excellence, and here is a mind where they are working on one hand, they are also going to school on the other, and sometimes one of them is going to suffer, in terms of excellence. What would be your wisdom?
I don't criticize anyone for what they're doing, because I believe that some people are in a family situation where if they didn't have a high side hustle, they would suffer. Some of them are conducting their side hustle because the family needs money, and so they're providing support even at a young age. So I don't criticize them for that. What I say, though, is whatever the side hustle is, work on being excellent. Excellence is a habit. Then at the same time, in your studies, how can you devote extra time to your studies? Because one is going to pay off, right? And most of the time, they both pay off in that you can combine the two. There's knowledge that you learn from education, but there's principles that you learn from business and work ethic that you learn from your side hustle, that when you put those two together, that's where the magic happens. Most people think that the miracles happen just because they get dropped out of the sky. No, what I've learned is your work ethic creates the miracle. Your study habits create the miracle. Right? For you to be a top attorney, that's not a miracle. That's the fact that you studied, that you worked hard. Right? And so we create the miracle through our everyday lives, and we're creating it in the future based on our work ethic.
Your work ethic creates lots of miracles.
Exactly.
That's profound. And talking about miracles, right? And one of the things that is supposed to be promises miraculous wealth are what we call the schemes, you know, the quick money schemes, those kind of schemes.
Yeah.
And they have been very many here in Kenya, and people have suffered under those kind of schemes, these pyramid schemes.
Yeah.
And that has been a huge thing when it comes to people discerning now which you have money, you're investing it, but investing it in a place that promises quick returns, and sometimes it's, I mean, too good to let go.
Yeah, but there's a reason why you're doing it. See, remember I said that you're passionate about it. You believe in it. That's what calls some people to be a pilot. They're passionate about it. They want to fly. When you're joining a business that you're not passionate about, you may be making a mistake. Because are you passionate about the business? Or are you passionate about the money that you can make if you join the business? When your focus is money, the logic becomes out of focus because you're just looking at the money. So here's money, here's the logic. If your focus is money, you can't see the logic. If your focus is logic, you don't focus on the money. It's the logic. So are they offering something, this program, whatever it is it something you really want? These pills, potions, lotions, whatever it is it something you really want? Have you bought that before you ever got involved in this company? Or do you see the money you can make and just focus on that money? What I believe is that most of the time we get caught up in the opportunity to get the money. And so we're buying things we don't want, we're doing things we don't need to do, and it's only for the purpose of getting the money. I think what we have to do when we're evaluating any business opportunity is it's something that I believe in. What is the level of service that it's providing to the other people? What is the possibility that it's going to be around long term? What's the foundation? Are they based here in Kenya? Do you ever get to meet the leaders of the company? Do they get to stay in their country, get you to give them their money? They shut it down, they never even come. There's certain things that we call it due diligence that you should really look into before you put your money behind things that you can't know who's behind it. And I think that focus of money forces people to do a lot of things that they wouldn't do otherwise. And then they find that it didn't last. And most of the time they're not surprised. They knew it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a sad thing. You know,
it's a very sad thing.
I mean,
but what they're doing is they're taking an advantage of people's desperation of the opportunity to create wealth or get money. Yeah.
All right. And earlier on, you talked about miracles. And going back to the church and faith.
Yes.
Because there is, many people want to be rich in the church. But the kind of spiritual training we have had invests a lot in prayer. You pray, and with all due respect to the practice of prayer. But we are taught many times that once you pray, the moment you rise up from that place of prayer, you can now expect the miracle, such that there is no express, honest connection between prayer and process. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, the work creates the miracle. See, even in the Bible, they did a short prayer and then they had to do something. They had to get up and do something. It says that faith without works is dead. And so most people want the prize without the process. They think prayer is the process. Prayer is talking to God. Meditation is listening to God. And you're getting the process that you're going to have to go through to create the miracle. Let me give you an example. We've been told that with faith we can move mountains. But we may not have been told it might have to be one bucket of dirt at a time. When I was in the Gulf War in 1991, I was a surgical tech. We passed instruments to the doctors. One of the surgeons said, "Ruben, I'm going to teach you how to assist because it's not 9 to 5 at wars until the patients stop coming." Well, he showed me a few things, and that night on my cot, I thought, man, when I get back to the United States, I would like to assist in surgery. I no longer want to pass instruments. I want them to be able to call me and I'd be able to assist an orthosurgeon, neurosurgeon, general, GYN surgeon. Well, first of all, I'm going to break that down. Where did that idea come from? I wasn't smart enough to come up with that idea. Understand? I would have never thought of that idea. At the time, I was pursuing a degree in criminal justice, which I completed. When I got back to the United States, I started telling people about that idea, and they're like, what? You can't start a profession? Like, you can be a nurse practitioner, a PA, or another doctor. That's how you assist in surgery. And so I put it all on the back burner because everything they said was logical. But then I had to go back to the principle that work creates the miracle. Right? If it's going to happen, I have to do it. Most people say I'll take action when I get the resources, but God says I'll give you the resources when you take action. So then I started looking into it and studying it and taking some action. It took 10 years, but we created the profession in the state of Kansas. We wrote the scope of practice, textbook, job description, college curriculum, and we trained people on how to assist in surgery, and then we put people to work in surgery. Now that was a 10-year process. From the day on the cot, praying, is this really real? Yes. T.D. Jakes said, we think in trees, God blesses us in seeds. See, if you get an idea and you know how it's all going to work, that's a good idea. That's not a God idea. God wouldn't teach us about faith if we weren't going to have to use it. We were instructed to walk by faith, not by sight. Dr. King said faith is taking that first step when you can't see the whole staircase. So when you pray for the miracle, there's some steps that you're going to have to take that you don't know, and you're going to have to trust God in faith, and there's going to be some resources that have to be provided, but they might be on step number 10. And if you quit at step number 7, it didn't mean the resources weren't available. It means you quit too soon. Most people don't fail. They quit too soon. So I told you it took me 10 years to start that profession. If I would have stopped at 9 years, it was still available. I just quit too soon. And so most people haven't developed the intestinal fortitude to go through the process for what they're praying for.
Oh, that's profound. And I'm just thinking about pastors who have served for years. But when it comes to their time to retire, they are stranded because they relied a lot on what they would get in as their salary, but they didn't invest for their retirement.
Right.
And I want you to say a word of wisdom to pastors. There are many pastors who are watching this program right now.
And they're doing it right now. A good man leaves an inheritance for his children's children. Right? And so if you have to be set, that's not going to happen by accident. There are some principles that you have to apply to make that happen. There's some things, some processes that you have to go through. What I love about pastors is they've dedicated themselves to spiritual knowledge. But all they have to do, this is profound what I'm about to say, all they have to do is take a fraction of that time and dedicate themselves to the principles of wealth. And not only will it change their life, but they'll be able to teach it to their congregation. You see, we can't be one-dimensional as parents, because there's things that our children need. They need morals, they need values, they need coaching, they need mentoring, they need discipline. We as parents have to provide all those things. Well, when you're the shepherd over a flock, there's a lot of things that they need. Now, watch this. You don't have to be able to do it all or teach it all, but you do have to bring the people in that's going to teach it. Now watch, when you bring them in to teach it, you learn too. You learn too. And so watch, this is profound if you're listening as a pastor. If you're getting to retirement age and you don't know it, that means your flock doesn't know it, because you haven't made provision to teach them as well. And so what you have to do is say, how can I learn it for me? Then how can I demonstrate the learning to the people in my family and the people that I'm serving? And so all it takes is just a little knowledge and a little study to figure out, oh, I can apply these principles. Now you have people in your congregation that have ideas, that may have money, that may have resources, that may have land, and you could be the catalyst to put those things together if you put your mind in the right direction. Or you can have your head buried so deep in the Bible that you don't follow all the principles. A good man leaves an inheritance for his children's children.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That's very important for us to be reminded and for the pastors to be reminded. And because you've talked about inheritance, and we have lots of people who are, in one way or other, in family businesses, and their businesses do very well. They are thriving, and there's always that anxiety, you know, especially to the head of the business, who could be the head of the family. What will happen to the business
when they're gone?
When I'm gone. And that transition is so repeatedly very noisy, because you see, once the head of the business passes on or is incapacitated for one reason or other, the business begins to decline as well. Can you speak to that?
Absolutely. Watch this. I told you I worked in surgery. I worked in surgery for 29 years, since 2001 to 2016. I assisted in surgery, every surgical specialty. I built a business. I had professional medical associates, had these businesses that focused on assisting in surgery. It doesn't mean that's my children's passion. My daughter's a nurse. She works in the ICU. My oldest son, he just graduated in May. His degree is business and psychology and a minor in leadership studies, and he's going to work for Pepsi in the leadership. Just because it was my passion doesn't mean it was theirs. So the first mistake we make is we just assume that they're going to be passionate about it, and we forget remember I told you, it took me 10 years to create that. If they're not passionate about it, they're not going to devote 10 years to understanding it. It's not what they want to do. So the mistake we make is we think that we could just pass it on to them and they're going to have the passion for it that we had. No. What we have to do is put people in place that can run the business irregardless of whether we're there or not. So there's a difference between a job and a business. A business you run, it's over there. A job you go to every day. And most people want their children to take over their job and business. But if they're not passionate about it, even if we tried to give them the knowledge, on those difficult days, passion brings you back. And if they're not passionate about it, then it's going to go away. So I think what we have to do is we have to position the business to thrive and survive with leadership and management, irregardless of whether it's us or our family members working in there. Back in the U.S., the medical staffing, the surgical assistant business is still going strong. Not one member of my family works there. I've had a martial arts school for 24 years now. Not one member of my family works there. You understand? I only brought in people that were passionate about the business. That's what allows it to survive. But just because they're your son or your daughter or a family member, doesn't mean that they want to grow it. They want to do it. So even when you turn it over to them, it's hard for them to do it because they're not passionate about it. And there's some knowledge that we have to pass on to them, not just the business. There's some knowledge.
Okay.
And oftentimes that doesn't get passed on.
That's a whole lesson there. It's interesting because when we talk about like passing on the business and growing in wealth, having this vision, there's one lingering question. And the question is there a point when you say this is enough? Or do you get caught up in this race and of going on and on and on?
And when you say enough, define that. Are you talking about enough wealth or enough with the business or enough frustration? What do you mean by enough?
I mean, comes a time when you have in part of your wealth vision, you can say, this is where I'm headed. You know, you can put a certain but a certain goal to it and say, this is where I'm headed and that's my enough.
What I've found is that most of the time it's not that we're doing anything wrong, is that we're doing the right thing too long. You know, remember I told you I did surgery, I worked in the martial arts school, I had a medical staffing company, now I train global speakers, I'm the president of Financially Fit Africa. Our life is cyclical. Like it goes in cycles, and that requires you to let go of some things and leave some things behind and pursue some new things. You build upon who you are, you build, and new opportunities open up for you. And I think what we have to learn is when that season is over. See, life has seasons, and it's unrealistic for me to go be a professional football player now. That's not faith, that's stupidity. That's gone. It's not going to happen, right? And so I think we have to understand when that season is over, and we have potential. But Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, famous basketball player, he said potential has a shelf life. See, most people have potential, but they're not using it right now. And there's going to come a time where we say they had potential, not have, they had. It has a shelf life. So we have to be active with what we have right now, take action now, and then when that season is gone, recognize it and be willing to move into the next season. Yeah.
All right. That's a strong statement there, that potential has a shelf life. No, it's interesting just how quickly time goes. Now, just before you tell us what you said you tell us at the end, where we can be able to gain this knowledge, either in terms, especially in terms of live training, just tell us about excellence and the Christian.
Excellence has to be the standard. And I believe that most people use Christianity as a scapegoat to excellence. Right? In other words, they say, I don't have to be that, I'm a Christian. I just focus on the Bible. I just focus, this is what I focus on, and I know the scriptures and I know the word. Yeah, but you got to apply them. Right? Excellence is a standard, and we have to pursue excellence in everything we do because we're representing the Christian faith. My sister worked at the bank, and when you work at the bank, they want you to know how to recognize real money. And so what they don't do is they don't show you all the counterfeit money. What they do is they make you become an expert in what real money looks like. And the real money, you have to be able to hold it up to the light. And in the U.S. money, you'll see certain holograms and you'll see certain things running through it that has to be there for it to be real. Well, as a Christian, we should be able to be held up to the light of Jesus Christ, and there's some things that they see in us that they know we're a Christian. We shouldn't have to go up and say, I'm a Christian. All these people say, I'm a Christian. You shouldn't have to tell me. When I look at a $100 bill, nobody has to tell me that it's a $100 bill. There's certain things in it that I know. There should be things that they see in you that they know, and part of that is excellence. Because if you're not going to hold yourself to a standard of excellence, then what they think is, well, if I become a Christian, I don't have to be excellent. I just have to know the word, and that's it. Not the case.
Okay, but that's so wrong.
It's wrong.
When you say that because I'm a Christian, I don't have to push things to a place of excellence. It's almost reversed.
It is exactly. And people see it reversed, and then that's why they struggle.
All right. Now, tell us where we can get the live training on these sessions.
Absolutely. So for our Financially Fit for Life and Financially Fit Africa, we have live events at St. Andrew's Parish. They can come. It starts at 10 a.m. Come early. The great news is it's a 1,000 seat facility. It holds 3,000, but we have it set up for social distancing. But they can just go to stevechallenge.org. Steve, S-T-E-V-E, challenge.org. And there they can register for the live event. There's also material they can download for free. That's just our give back because we want to help make Africa financially fit. Okay.
May God continually make your work fruitful.
Thank you.
Dr. Ruben West, thank you so much for your wisdom. I look forward to having you again on Spotlight again to share your wisdom with all of us.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Viewer, we've been talking to Dr. Ruben West. Lots of things to glean from his insights. And as we go into our daily lives, let's remember that lots of miracles happen through your work ethic. This has been Spotlight. Thank you for watching.